You know that moment when someone looks at your work and says, "Great job." And instead of feeling good, you spiral into thinking too much. You overthink, did they actually mean it? Are they just being nice? What are they not telling me? Or maybe it's worse. They gave you one note, just one tiny piece of feedback, and suddenly it feels like your entire piece is worthless. Like their comment wasn't about the work, it was about you. They have issues with you. They are attacking you. Yeah, that's critique anxiety. And it's not just an emotional overreaction. It's actually something that shows up in psychology and creative studies. Remember, everything we talk about here, every topic we mention here, we always have to link it back to psychology because, again, this show is about the mental health and mental wellness of creatives. So, emotional overreaction, critique anxiety, well, they are reasons our brain interprets feedback as an attack. They are reasons silence sometimes hurt even more than criticism. So today, we're going to break this down. Hey everyone, welcome back to Peace and Pixels. I'm your host, Esther Michael, and today we're talking about critique anxiety. We're going to break it down together. We'll look at why critique feels so personal, what research says about feedback aversion and rejection sensitivity in creatives, and then we'll go into some practical tools for receiving and even asking for critique in healthier ways. Feedback is fuel, but only if we learn how to handle it. So let's dive in. Creativity 101. Our work isn't just work, it's a piece of ourselves. When you spend hours modeling, writing, painting, rendering, taking photos, drawing, you're not just producing pixels. You're putting your thoughts, your skills, your taste, and your identity into something. So when someone critiques it, your brain doesn't always separate the work from the self. A note on your lighting feels like a note on your value. A suggestion about your composition feels like a suggestion about your ability. And that's why even good feedback can trigger anxiety. Because instead of hearing the words, we hear the subtext. Great work becomes, but maybe not actually. Silence becomes, oh, they hated it and don't know how to say it. It's exhausting. Psychologists call this rejection sensitivity, the tendency to perceive neutral or even positive responses negative. And creatives, especially those who put themselves online, are prime candidates for this because we're not just sharing spreadsheets or reports, we're sharing ourselves. Now add the online factor. When you post a render or a song or a video, you're not just getting critique from a teacher or a boss. You're getting critique from strangers. And strangers don't always sugarcoat. Sometimes they're blunt. Sometimes they're trolls. Sometimes they're silent. Sometimes they're just mean. And your brain has to interpret all of it. That's why feedback can feel like an attack, even when it's not meant that way. There's a study in the Journal of Personality that looked at feedback aversion. It found that people who strongly tie their identity to their output, which is basically every artist ever, experience higher stress responses when receiving critique. Their brain literally lights up in areas associated with threat detection. In other words, your nervous system treats critique like danger, the same way you would treat someone raising their voice or pointing a finger. No wonder your chest gets tight or your heart races when you read someone's feedback. Another body of research points to what's called the negativity bias. Humans are wired to pay more attention to negative information than positive. So if you get 10 compliments and 1 critique, guess which one your brain obsesses over? Yeah, the critique. Silence can actually hurt just as much, if not more. A study on social exclusion found that when people are ignored, their brain processes it in the same way as physical pain. That's why posting something and getting 0 feedback can feel worse than getting a harsh comment. Silence says, you don't exist. So when we put all this together, rejection sensitivity, feedback aversion, negativity bias, and the pain of silence, it's no wonder so many creators feel like feedback is an attack. But there is good news. Just because our brains are wired this way doesn't mean we're stuck. We can reframe critique so that it fuels us instead of breaking us. And as you know, I will never leave you hanging. I will always leave you with practical steps that can help you better manage your time and your mental health. So these are practical steps that can actually help you handle critique without meltdown. 1. Separate intent from delivery. Not everyone knows how to give good feedback. Some people are blunt, some are vague, some sugarcoat too much. Instead of focusing on how it's said, ask, what's the useful nugget here? Even if the delivery is messy, the intent might still be helpful. 2. Ask for specific critique. Vague feedback like, looks good, or not feeling it, is what fuels anxiety because your brain fills in the blanks. Instead of accepting or expecting vague feedbacks, guide people. Ask questions. How does the lighting feel? Or do the colors work together? That way you're steering the feedback and making it more actionable. 3. Reframe critique as collaboration. Instead of thinking, oh, they're so judging me, think, they're joining me. Critique is not about tearing you down. It's about building the work up together. It's about showing you your weaknesses and helping you to reinforce on those skills. 4. Take breaks before reacting. When you first read feedback, your emotions flare it's up in fire. That's normal, but don't respond right away. Sit with it. Let the stink fade, and then come back with a clearer head, and you will be amazed how differently that feedback feels after some time has passed. The big question remains, do we really need critique? Do we really need critique? Yes, we do. Critique is uncomfortable, but it's very necessary. Without it, we stagnate. With it, we grow. The problem isn't critique itself. It's the way we receive and the way we give it. So let's imagine a healthier feedback culture. A culture where people feel safe sharing half-finished work. A culture where feedback is framed as curiosity, not judgment. A feedback where silence is replaced with encouragement and harshness is replaced with clarity. That's the culture we should be building as creatives, because when critique is safe, it doesn't feel like an attack, it feels like support. And the bonus, the more you practice receiving feedback, the easier it gets. Your brain learns. Over time, that critique isn't danger, it's just data. So that's it for today's episode of Peace and Pixels, Critique Anxiety, Why Feedback Feels Like an Attack. We uncovered why feedback stings so much, what science says about our reactions, and some practical ways to shift how we process critique. Here's a challenge for this week. Share a piece of your work with someone you trust and ask for one specific piece of feedback. Not what do you think, but something like, does the mood come across, whatever the mood is? Or does the composition feel balanced? By making the question specific, you take control of the critique, and in doing so, you take control of your anxiety. Thank you for spending this time with me. If this episode resonated, share it with a creative friend who struggles with feedback as well. And remember, critique is not a verdict on you. It's just a flashlight pointing to where your art can grow. Until next time, take care of yourself, take care of your art, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.